everybody. Welcome. This is such a privilege. My name is Martha Cameron. I am a Special Projects Coordinator at PWM, and I know some of you know me wearing many other hats, but I am here with the amazing PWM team that has pulled off this event. And without wasting too much of our time, I'm going to invite our fierce co-EDs to just introduce the event, and then we're going to get started. Nana?
It's me. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, and thank you all for joining us today. I cannot express how excited I am for you to be joining us for our second annual Celebrating Honor Black Women in HIV Movement Day. The actual day is March 12th, so I just want to say that. But when this idea was first raised by some of our Black staff during the 2020 uprisings, we could never imagine that from the seed of sorrow and frustration that we could birth something so powerful, and that it will be real, and that others would see its value, and the whole PWM team jumped on this. I have to say, I'm just overjoyed. As a young girl, I often saw the double treatment of women in society and read about it. And it took me years to fully understand what it was about. I never understood why my grandmother, who lived here at Acres Home in Houston, which I never thought I'd be here, her name was Valerie Hicks, and I say her name because she needs to be remembered. She wasn't the kind of woman that others, that they have her in the newspaper or billboards. But when I tell you she was a badass lady, she was. She bought several homes. She raised children. And she raised her own children, and she did what a lot of Black women did at the time. She lived on the job. And if y'all know what I mean, she lived and worked for white folks. She did the cooking, cleaning. She raised their kids often instead of her own. Once when I was visiting her, one of the little girls asked me, was I going to be a maid too? And I was not allowed to go back because even at 8, I knew something was wrong with that picture, but I admired my grandmother because she made it possible. In law school, I remember taking this seminar about working and motherhood because I thought, surely I'm going to see Black women's plight and how much they have had to do. But no, it was about women with degrees, primarily white women, who were fussing about being able to take their kid to this class or that class. Mind you, I love that women can have advantages, but I often was frustrated by the lack of visibility or acknowledgement of the fight of Black women. So what I did in law school was I decided to write a paper called The Marginalization of a Footnote, the Black Woman, Devalued, Invisible, and Forgotten. And we are not forgetting her today, and she is no longer a footnote. On March 12th, we had a chance to do something special, and I'm really proud of PWM for doing this. I'm 63 years old, y'all, and the first time I've seen a day honoring Black women in this way. And I didn't realize all those years ago, in order to have it, you got to create it. I should have known better because I watched y'all do this. When I was diagnosed in 2003, never in my wildest, I'm going to say wildest drunken dreams did I ever imagine I'd be working for an organization like PWN and that has made a commitment to Black women. And so on that note, I want to introduce my partner in crime, for whom I'm going to tell y'all, I couldn't do what I do without her, and CHBW would not exist. I want to introduce Nana Kana.
Thank you so much, Vanita. Hey, y'all. Welcome, everybody. Can we just take a minute to give it up for Vanita Ray, the amazing Vanita Ray? Woo! Woo! Woo!
I celebrate y'all.
Vanita, yeah, you are my twin star. You are my co-conspirator. I am so grateful to learn from you and be inspired by this fierce, brilliant, beautiful Black woman every single day. I am so honored to be in partnership with you, Vanita, around around our work on behalf of this organization and on behalf of women and trans folks living with HIV. I want to really thank everybody for being here. Thank you so much to our panelists who have come through to be part of celebrating and honoring and loving on and showing joy for Black women in the HIV movement. This moment has been a long, long, long time coming. Black women have always led the way in the HIV community. You're going to get to hear from some of them here. Black women who founded organizations, who created stuff out of nothing, who said, we're going to create a reproductive justice movement. We're going to create reproductive justice organizations. We're going to create safe spaces for Black women to get together and talk about HIV. It is long past time for Black women to be given their flowers for everything they have done in this community and in this movement. And so I, as a person living with HIV myself, would not be here without all the Black women who came before me and who continue to fight for justice for our communities. And so I just want to quickly call in 20 of the women that we are honoring today as movement mothers in the HIV community. As part of our Celebrate and Honor Black Women in the HIV Movement Campaign, this is something that we started last year. We will continue to do this every single year. Every year we have a different theme. This year we decided to focus on mothers of the movement. Black women without whom our movement would not be where it is today. And so I'm just going to name them, the 20 women that we have chosen to honor this year. These are Black movement mothers who struggled, kicked down doors, showed us the way, creating spaces of radical love, refuge, and healing to uplift other Black women. And so I call into this space Dee Dee Chambly, Mama Dee Dee, Dazon Dixon Diallo, Dolores Dockery, Frances Ash Goins, Katrina Haslip, Dion Haywood, Janetta Johnson, Vanessa Johnson, Marsha Jones, Lauren Jones, Barbara Joseph, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, Prudence Mabele, Latricia Miles, Patricia Knowles, Sharmis Outlaw, Linda Scruggs, Wahida Shabazz El, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, and Juanita Williams. Some of these women are no longer with us in this, in this earthly plane, but they are always with us. Their spirits are always with us. They're guiding us. And I want to invite folks to name and call into this space anybody you would like to in the chat, any Black woman leader who has inspired you. We know there are so many more. We ourselves could name, 500 or 1,000 more easily, but we had to stop somewhere. Yeah, thank you. I see names in the chat here.
Yes.
So much. Thank you so much for uplifting these folks. We'll get to hear from some of them today. And I think I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Martha with a thank you again to everybody for joining us here.
Before Martha, we're going to hear a few words from our board chair, Latricia Miles, and then we'll go. We can't hear you. You must be on Zoom. There you go.
Welcome to help us celebrate and honor Black women. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm Latricia Miles, PWN Board of Director, co-chair, and one of 28 diverse co-founders. It is an honor and a privilege to be recognized as one of the many Black women in the HIV movement. Can we say yeah? I want to hear Okay, Black women have been the backbone, which has already been said, and we'll keep saying it all day long, of many things. I'm just saying. The HIV movement, of which we've celebrated today, honoring movement mothers, we've been the backbone of families. A year ago, we showed up in numbers at the poll, and we're the reason for the Biden administration, along with a Black Asian woman as our vice president. despite being underpaid Black women, despite undervalued, and many times being the most qualified in some positions in the workplace, as Maya Angelou says, and still I rise. I don't have time to read that entire poem, just a bit of it. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may tread me in the very dirt, but still like dust. Ladies, can we say it? I'll rise. Our board of directors is unique in that 100% of our board are women with HIV. Throughout the US, we are forging a path, teaching, empowering women to be a force in their own local communities. We are a PWN board of directors that stand strong and are unapologetic women in our oversight of PWN. I'd like to now introduce Tana and Octavia, which are board members, but they are also two of our members of the Black Women Healing Justice Coalition. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Greetings and thank you for inviting us to address you today. The leadership of PWN USA, co-directors Vanita Ray and Nana Connor, recognize and support Black women living with HIV/AIDS with having our own space. This space allotted us the opportunity to show up in all of our intersectionalities through creating a space for us, by us, to own our narrative moving forward in the HIV/AIDS movement. We, the Black Women's Health Justice Coalition, celebrate the gift we have given each other. We have learned that it is essential to recall the hurt and pain we've encountered through amplifying our voices and holding those accountable for not creating affirming and safe spaces for us. Today is proof that PWN USA has grown. Through celebrating and honoring Black women in the HIV/AIDS movement, along with the movement mothers on this day.
And today is even more remarkable since Black women rarely celebrate our accomplishments that often go unnoticed, and for the reason we call out the women who are PWN USA founding members and board members: Bree, Latricia, Linda, Lauren, Vanessa, and Wahida. And we embark on this journey. We must not forget about the membership body of Black women in the HIV/AIDS movement. Our goal is to foster a new kind of solidarity grown from mutual respect and admiration. Our faith hinges on Black women living with HIV/AIDS, taking the leadership mantle and carrying the baton of social and racial justice across the finish line.
Woo! Martha, you're up. Thank you, y'all. Beautiful.
As celebratory as this is, I know for a lot of us, it's also very emotional. So I feel a little emotional right now after those names were called in. And I just, for so many of these women, I identify with their mentorship of me, their love of me. And for many, many other people, as we have heard, we know that we get to stand on the shoulder of giants, some who have left us, and of course, those that are still here. So that was beautiful. Thank you so much. I am truly inspired by the leadership of our co-EDs to put together this event. And I am jazzed by the Black staff of PWN for all the work that has gone in to bring this event together. So congratulations, you all. We have an awesome program. We are going to have 3 panels that are going to talk a little bit more, get into a little bit more about some of the issues that we've talked about. And I think you are all just gonna love what we have put together for you. We also have some trivia questions. I'm gonna be calling those out, and we'll have prizes for those. When I call a trivia question out, the first person to answer the question, and somebody's gonna be monitoring that, will win a prize. So I'm gonna alert you, I'm about to call out a trivia question, and first person to answer it will have a prize, and we're gonna announce those at the end. The prizes include 3 self-care kits and a motivational download called Warrior Wake Up by Marvin Anderson. I think they're awesome. So just watch out for those trivia questions, but I don't want to waste too much more of your time. I think we need to get into our first panel, because our first panel is simply royalty. Our very own Crystal Townsend is going to moderate that panel, and we're gonna have on this panel Wahida, the legend El Shabazz. We have Dee Dee Chamberlain and Dazon Dixon Diallo. I am super excited. Over to you, Crystal.
Thank you so much, Martha. I want to make sure, first of all, before we start, I'm so grateful to be here and to be a part of this conversation. And I want to make sure that we are able to spotlight these people and really see all their beauty and greatness and bring them into the conversation. I won't prolong it, because the people that we have today are our movement mothers and someone that I know I greatly appreciate and stand on the shoulders of. So Mama Didi, Wahida, Dazon, thank you for being here with us today. In this conversation, I want to just start off with you, Dazon. You founded Sister Love in 1989. Can you tell us a little bit about why you founded Sister Love and what issues you were trying to address? Why was it so necessary?
Crystal, and hey, Dee Dee, what's up, Wahida? I'm a little fangirl and starstruck right now. I hope I get these answers right, because story. So, and thank you so much for being here, everybody who is out there online in the ethos, and for everybody else who is in this incredible Zoom room. And thanks to PWN for everything and the awesomeness that you are. So why? The real reason is because nobody else was doing it. Straight up, there was nothing. When I first got involved, it was 1985, actually, started volunteering, because for some reason, once Rock Hudson made his announcement, all the women thought, oh, I need to be concerned. And so they started calling in, and the local AIDS organization didn't have any answers for them, none, because it was all about men at the time. I worked at a feminist health center, but that wasn't even the place. Where my energy and why Sister Love came about is because nobody was doing it. It was already Black. Because I'm a baby who grew up in the National Black Women's Health Movement, sitting at the knees and the feet of the founders of Black Women's Health Imperative, which was the Black Women's Health Project at the time. And what I knew was that our stories drive our solutions, and that we needed to make sure that whatever happened around AIDS at the time and Black women, it absolutely had to be by us, for us, because if not, it wasn't going to get done right. And I had, as a young person in my early 20s, an Aries, a Spelman alumna, I figured I had all the whatever it took to go into community, understand what was needed, and then enlist others to help us build something. And that's why. again, because if it's not us to save ourselves, then we don't get saved.
Thank you for sharing that. And it's a truth that we know and then that we accept very often, because if no one will do it, it won't get done. And it won't get done for us.
Not for Black women, because we too busy doing it for everybody else. So they get taken care of.
Hello? Okay. Now, Wahida, let me go to you, because you are known as Wahida the Legend for a reason. It's because you are simply legendary, okay? You have been involved in a whole range of activism, and you even helped envision and start PWN. Why was an entity like PWN necessary?
Thank you, Crystal. I want to give a shout out to everybody who's here. And I really want to congratulate all of the honorees and thank you all for celebrating me as being one of the Black mothers of the HIV movement. Simply, we just can't end this epidemic without the voices of women. Without women who are living with HIV, without women who are at risk for contracting HIV, we have to have these women at the tables. And so we needed to develop a pool. We needed to develop a pipeline of women living with HIV who were educated around policy so they could take center stage with a unified message around the complications, the nuances, and what it's really like to live with HIV and what we need to have in order to thrive with HIV. We refuse to continue to be, like Vanita said earlier, a footnote, right? Because women were an afterthought in this epidemic. So we saw the need to educate our communities and remind our communities and the world leaders that globally, women and girls bear the brunt of this disease. More than 55%, more than half of people living with HIV in the world are women and girls. And most of those new cases of HIV are among Black and brown women. And when we tell people this, a lot of times they don't know this. They don't think it's the women that's bearing the brunt of this disease. So there was a real need to teach women living with HIV to advocate for themselves in order to close those gaps. The most impacted needs to be centralized in developing strategies and solutions to address our problems. PWN was that necessary entity that centered our voices, especially the voices of Black women living with HIV, and taught us to show up at all levels of policy and decision making. It was necessary.
Absolutely. Absolutely necessary. And 13 years later, look what you've built. Look what you have built in the community you have created. It's really like inspiring, and it's like really kind of overwhelming to even, I know for me to even like look back and say, damn, this is incredible. So I thank you for your conviction and your courage, and for you even you and all the founders even having that vision. So thank you. Mama Didi, let me bring you into the conversation, because I did my research here. I looked you up and I said, dang, you founded powerhouses like Legender Inc., Snapco, and your work has even been recognized by President Obama. So why do you think it's so important to bring people up as you climb? And I'm asking this specifically as the Black woman of trans experience. It's so important that there is representation. So why is it so important to bring people up as you climb? And then, what do you hope your legacy will be?
Oh, thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm so honored to be on this panel with these women. They have been in a part of my life all through my journey, and it's overwhelming to me. I would say the reason is because I had to open the doors for my community. We didn't exist. I mean, there was no days to substantiate that we even existed. So, we was walking around like aliens, and they treated us like aliens. We couldn't even go in and get treatment or care. And we had one of the highest rates of infection in our community. So it was destroying us. HIV was destroying us. And we were dying up on the bridges and in abandoned houses and alone because people didn't want to touch people with HIV as it was. And then definitely they didn't want to touch a person of trans experience with HIV. So you were just left lost. So I just got tired of the disrespect, of the way that we were being treated when we went in to get services. It was just like a zoo when you went into those places. The health department, even Atlanta. It was just like a zoo when you went in there to try to get help or treatment if you were a trans person. With people snickering, whispering, the staff, the front desk people. So I just set out educating my community. First, I had to educate my community on trans because we were still considered drag queens, and that was the terminology that was being used. So I had to educate my community on what trans was, and then start educating the organizations and the medical facilities and the service providers on what trans was and how to respect a trans person. The simple fact of how do I address a trans person was an issue. I mean, how am I supposed to address them? I don't know nothing about them. I don't like them. You're here to provide a service. Keep it professional. If you don't know how to address them, simply ask, how would you like for me to address you? That simple point right there. Even going to the colleges to educate the college kids that were coming out to do social work. Just educating them on that simple fact of, how would you like to address me? Address me the way that I choose to identify myself. And so that was just simple facts, just putting it in a professional format and just going about training. That I wasn't getting paid for the training, but I trained my ass off. I mean, I went all over this state, all over this country, training. And now PWN has some of my daughters working in there and doing their thing. This was what I dreamed of. This is my dream come true. And I thank PWN, I thank Nana, I thank Wahida, and I thank Crystal, I thank Vanita, I thank all y'all for opening the doors to my daughters and showing them and nurturing them into the leaders that they have become today. I am so proud of Sophia and Bree and my other daughter that spoke. Oh, she called me Titi. We went to Africa together with Dazan, which opened my whole world up and took me back to my roots, but I cried rivers of tears just from the sound of the drum. The sound of the drums, my spirit just rejoice like you've been here before. Your spirit has been here. And the women over there loved on us. Oh, I saw my aunties, I saw my mamas, I mean, it was just like I had went back home. I really didn't want to leave. It was such an enlightening experience. I'll never forget it. Changed my whole way of thinking. Now I have an adopted son over there. And he's in the ministry now. He just became a minister.
Wow.
And he wants to come to America to see me because for some reason, he knew I was trained. At first, I didn't tell him. I was just sending money every month, to help him with his books, clothes, and stuff like that. But one day on the letter he wrote me, he said, "Should I call you Uncle or Auntie Didi?" And I thought, "Oh, my baby knows my spirit." Oh, but he had just loved on me. It's just been a wonderful thing. And I just thank you, Deson, for that. And I don't mean take up so much time. That spirit just led me.
Well, thank you. We appreciate and honor you for sharing that. And what I heard you talk was the legacy that you have laid out that people have walked into. And we as an organization, we are grateful for that work that you, Wahida, Dazon have laid out, because you all are building the next generation of leaders. As we close out, we have about 5 minutes. I want to ask the three of you, if you want to name some of the folks who mentored you, now is the time to do it. Or, if you have some closing thoughts on how we can best support the next generation of leaders, what would you tell us? I know we have about 5 minutes left. Dazon, I'll start with you.
So thank you, Didi and Wahida and Crystal and all the amazing, amazing leaders, members, and followers of PWN USA. I am just humbled and honored, and in my feels from this conversation. So thank you. I've been in the movement almost 40 years. So that's almost my whole life. And there's a long list of mentors that I've had along the way. And I'm going to, one is going to have to be a set, but at the offset, I think that, or the outset, there's two people who continue to be my mentors, my beacon, my guide, my light, specifically in the work of sexual and reproductive health rights and justice, especially for Black women. And that's my other mother, Billie Avery, the founder of the National Black Women's Health Project, the movement for Black women, which extended to women of color. Before the Black Women's Health Project, there was also no Latina Women's Health Organization or Latina Institute for Reproductive Rights. There was no Native American Women's Health Center, which Sharon Asatoya started in the Dakotas. There was no Asian Pacific Islanders for reproductive health before the Black Women's Health Project. So Billie Avery has paved the pathway for all of us to stand in our truths and our stories. And then my best friend on the planet, because I got a lot of them, but she gets like extra bestesses, is Loretta J. Ross, who was I think the third director of the very first rape crisis center in the entire world in Washington, D.C., the first woman of color to lead women of color at the National Organization for Women. She used to chase the Klan. She's a co-creator of Sister Song along with me, 14 other people. She is one of the creators of reproductive justice in theory, in name, and in movement. They lead me, they mentor me, they kick my behind, they ask me all the hard questions, they give me shoulders, They help me travel. They make sure I come to see them. This is the world, and there are so many just like them, but those two sit next to my mama. Then they're next to my mama, who is still one of my best mentors in my life. So, and as a group, honestly, every single woman living with HIV whom I've met and who I don't know, mentor me in understanding all things around human rights, women's rights, reproductive justice, bodily autonomy, standing in my truth, being unafraid, because those leaders are the people who will get us to the end of this epidemic for real. But most importantly, those women are the people who will make sure that there are other women who, one, don't have to walk the painful paths they walk, but allow them to do so and are waiting for them on the other side no matter what. And those are the people who help me understand the path that I walk as well. Thank you for the question. That just wasn't enough time.
Absolutely. Before we transition to our next panel discussion and our break, Wahida, I did want to ask you, did you have anything you wanted to add? I know folks are telling me we're at time, but I think this is important to create this time as much as we can, or as little as we can take.
Thank you, Crystal. I just need to say, before I came to PWN, the people who mentored me didn't actually look like me. They weren't people who looked like me. One was a woman of trans experience, Jackie Adams from Philadelphia. She's passed now, but Jackie was the first person I met at the clinic to do my intake. Never looked at me sideways, never asked me, why are you here as a Muslim living with HIV? And Jackie took me everywhere she went to show me what it was to live in the HIV community. And I learned to live my truth through her. And then I have to mention J.D. Davis, who's a white trans person who took me to my first Black Reproductive Justice Conference at Sister Love, how I met Dazan. And I said, who are you? How do you know? Why don't I know that this is going on? And JD also took me to Nana, and she talked about Nana and said, there's this woman that you have to meet, and told Nana, this is woman you have to meet. So when we both got in the same room together, we knew we had to meet one another, right? And so between Nana and Vanita, they both taught me how to own my own talents, even when I don't see them as clearly as others. They've taught me to take time with myself. And I want to tell all of you all here, develop your craft, develop yourself, right? Hang out with smart people. Try to hang out with people a little bit smarter than you, right? And make that leap, right? So I also want to say that I learned to lead from the back, because I see many women here, some of the women who've spoken on this program today are women that I help mentor. So I learned to lead from the back. And sometimes we do that. We mentor people so that we're able to step back and get all these accolades that you are giving us. And I'm so grateful for this time to be able to spend this time here with all of you amazing people. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna move us to our next segment.
Yep.
And
I got you, Crystal.
Yeah, you go to Martha. Yeah.
okay, thank you so much.
Let us give it up, guys. Let us give it up for this panel. I don't know how you can want to cry and celebrate at the same time. Like, you know, Wahida, Dazan, I mean, you know, you all have mentored me, dragged me along, helped me out. And Mama Didi, you just like made me cry. You made me cry. So, hey, let's give it up. Let's come off mute. Let's say something. DJ, play us a little something before we transition to our next.
Of this conversation is to really kind of bring some light to how we survive and we thrive in this climate of criminalization and HIV and reproductive justice, and how we resist, and how, you know, as Black women, we have to be strong, but when do we start to use our resilience and turn it into resistance? So I'll get started. Tony Michelle. So the communities that you move and organize in are constantly facing violence in the community, in the streets, and definitely from the state. How do you think about the relationship between abolition, transformative justice, and resilience?
Yes. Thank you so much, Sally. I'm so excited to be here. I feel like I haven't seen folks in so long. It's so exciting to see Bonita dance and to hear Miss Dee Dee and see Wahida and Dazan and the whole PWN family. So always honored to be in y'all's presence. Thank y'all so much for having me. Your question is amazing because we oftentimes just need some definitions, right, to help us move through and understand, how our bodies and how our movement should move forward. So when I think about abolition, we're talking about the dismantling and destruction, right, and the tearing down of practices and institutions that don't serve us, right, that cause harm to us. And when we talk about transformative justice, it's really just the framework in which we identify the types of harm that we're encountering and how we need to restore those things, right? And so thinking about restorative justice and what's to build, right? Often people get abolition at being something that's just destructive, but it is about the powerful and beautiful things that we build. And in this context of celebrating Black women, right, it is how and the ways that we have built communities and how we built families. We have rebuilt our hearts, our spirits, our minds, right, and our bodies, and celebrating the ways in which we do that. And so that's also part of abolition, right, and having an abolitionist mindset and framework. And also, again, how we recognize what it means to restore relationships. I can only imagine for Wahida and Miss Dee Dee and Dazan, the amount of relationships that you've held over the years as you built movements. And so it's about, again, what is your embodiment to hold the complexities of that and have the courage and the structure to move through it.
Thank you, Tony Michelle. And I hear you on having the courage to move through everything that we're going through. I feel like as Black women, oftentimes we're just built to be resilient. And I want to ask you, what to you is the difference between resilience and resistance?
This question is so cute. Okay, because I think that it is less of a difference than as it is as it is of just what is, it is that we resist, and inside of our Blackness and our queerness and our transness and our womanness and all of the things that, there are things that we fall in love with. And let me see, it's also about, get my thoughts together. Yes, I do believe that they coexist and there's not a difference in between in them. And I do believe, though, that there exists a tension, right? A tension of hope and hope that something can change. And then also a tension, like we just talked about, of courage, right? The courage to facilitate that transformation for yourself and for your community. And so they coexist. And the beauty about Black women is that we know that they coexist. And the hardest parts are trying to block out the bullshit of the world and the patriarchy and white supremacy to, allow us to be in our own selves to, manifest how that exists and finesse it. and ride with it and hold it and pass it on and sit it down. That's some of the resilience and resistance of Blackness and womanness for me.
Thank you so much for your answer. Gonna move on to Helen. Helen, as a Black immigrant and an international HIV and reproductive justice leader, how do you think about resilience? And what do you feel Black Americans and the HIV movement really need to hear right now?
Yes, thank you, Sally. Yes, I'm Helen Simba, and I am a proud Black woman. And as an immigrant, I guess, naturalized citizen here in the United States, yes, I look at it in a different way as well, because there's a lot of things that go on in the community that we are not different but the same, so I use my lived experience for over 27 years, which is ongoing, to discuss this issue. So the resistance that we see in the community is pretty much the same thing, stigma that goes on, and also the fact that most people as it relates to HIV, they focus on the HIV alone. They don't focus on everything else that's going on with the person. And so you can be reluctant to accessing services just because of that. And you resist the services also because you are better that way. And also, when you're not living out loud about your own diagnosis and the things that are going on with you, that can also contribute to what's going on in a day-to-day life with the whole family. That's how I look at it. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. And it's definitely a lot of power behind living in your truth. I mean, look at all the work that everyone here has done just based on just living in their truth and bringing their truth into power. I'm honored, like completely honored to be on this panel with you all. My next question is for Marsha Jones, so sorry. Congratulations on your recognition as one of PWN's 20 Black movement mothers. Can we get a clap for Marsha? So I was wondering if you could share with us about what led you to start the FIA Center and talk about some of the important work that the FIA Center is doing to build resilience in Black communities, especially in the context of the political climate that we're dealing with in Texas right now.
So first I want to say thank you. Even before I answer that question, I have to say thank you. I have to say thank you because, I was just even shocked to even hear that. I am so honored. Like, there are some awards that mean more than others. And so this is one of those things. It's just something. So I don't really care about being honored. That's not important to me. I believe in traveling through the world real quiet anyway and just being effective. And I don't necessarily have to be seen. But for a group of women, like the Women at Positive Women Network, whom I know so many of them, and I knew so many of them before they even had they had a voice. They just didn't. Nobody had allowed them to use their voice, and that's another whole thing. And I'm not going to go there. But that group of women lay special in my heart. And to get something from y'all is everything. It's like the academy, like bigger than the academy. So that's that. So and thank y'all and hats off to you. Bye. So I'm at the nail shop, y'all. I wouldn't be me if I was where I was supposed to be when I was supposed to be there. And I wouldn't be me if I was on time. But she got me out of there quick. And I'm here with my people. They coming to the call. But anyway, ask me that question again, baby, real quick. And I'm gonna answer it quick.
Okay, I just wanted to know,
why I do this and what the Affair Center do. So the Affair Center, before we were the Affair Center, I have been so impacted by HIV, but I have been impacted by Black gay men because the men that I loved were Black gay men. I grew up with my nephew, who was a Black gay man, and so his friends were my friends. And so we had lost so many of them. And I saw the devastation that the church had did to these men, right? And so there had to be an answer for me. Like, God wasn't giving me what I needed. The church wasn't giving me what I needed. It just wasn't happening. And so I started to do
this work. I left corporate America. There was a bigger calling, a greater calling on my life. And the first thing I started didn't quite jump off. And then I met this sister by the name of Mukam Tagara Jandai, who was amazing. And I had never heard of, I didn't even know I could be a feminist. I didn't know anything about reproductive justice. But what I did know is that if we were going to deal with HIV and deal with Black women, Black folk, it could not be behavioral. It could not be, it couldn't be those things. We had to deal with the social justice. We had to deal with systems of oppression. We had to deal with those things that created an unfair playing ground for Black women. And so Mukam introduced me to all of this. And she told me she had come from this Let's Talk About Sex conference. And she was talking to me about it. And so we started to share our experiences. And the next year, we sneaked away from our job on the weekend and went to a reproductive justice, a prevention justice conference. And I heard Dazon Dixon talking in that conference. And I heard Dazon Dixon talking in that conference. And I said, that's what I got to do. She became my mentor, whether she wanted to be or not. It didn't even matter. I would follow Dazon. If Dazon was sitting on a stage, I would be writing and listening, following her organization was what we wanted to be at the Affair Center. And Mook and I were dedicated to emulating in Texas the amazing work that Dazon and Sister Song had done in Atlanta. And so that's it. It was myself and Mukam. You can't revision history. And we are still to this day the organization that we are. And what made us do what we do is what make the work we do so important, and what make the women that come and find us and seek us is that we center Black women. It's just as simple as that. We center Black women and all of the things that try and come and prevail against them and their Blackness. And when we say Black women, we talk about the entire expandedness of what Black womanness can look like. And we do that, and we don't run from the storm. We run to the storm, and we do this with Black women. And we count it as a gift. And I count it as a gift, being a woman, not living with HIV, having that the women that we serve allow me to share that space with them. And so that's what we do. We just center Black women.
I love that. And I'm short on time on my panel, but the crowd is asking for a nail cam. So you got that? Let's see those nails.
Let's see what we can do here.
Look at that.
If you got a cute nail, let me give it.
Now, y'all know if I'm dead ass broke, I'm gonna find some money to get these nails done.
No, that's right. I want to thank you all for doing this panel, and I'll pass it back to Martha.
Thank you so much. I can't even show my nails, man. Let's give it up for this panel. Just centering, the Black woman and everything, all the stuff that is involved in, including our nails, right? But this is what this event is about. And I'm just so proud that we get to do this at this scale, and it's going to be a bigger scale. So we're going to be talking about Black Joy. We have Marina Miller. We're going to have Mashanya Taylor and Bree Rivera on this panel. So I'm going to hand it over to Aisha.
Thank you, Martha, for that introduction. I am so excited to be on this panel with these ladies. I love them each so much. And when we thought about Black joy and self-care, each of these ladies embody this, and I'm so happy for you each to join us. And before I get into individual questions, I do just want to ask each of our panelists, and I'll start with Bree. What does Black joy and Black girl magic look like for you as a woman living with HIV, mothers, queer people, women of trans experience, community leaders, and entrepreneurs?
Thank you. I think Black joy is just existing, first and foremost. I think it's important to name that access to joy is a public health crisis. And it has been for Black women, transgender, expansive folks since the beginning of time. And so like, I think just being in a world where we are able to exist, be seen, be safe, is my idea of Black joy.
And you know, Bree, when I look at you right now, because I'm so used to seeing you with your long, flowy locks, immediately I think of, I am not my hair, I am not this skin, I am not your expectations, no. And just seeing all of your joy just show through, you know, and having just that big old smile on your face and that confidence. I just wanted to mention that. Marnina, did you want to add something?
Sure. I first want to say how amazing this is. I don't know many spaces where we as Black women living with HIV get to celebrate ourselves and each other. And I personally find Black joy by seeing Black women just existing, breathing, smiling, and living in their truth. Black joy means that I don't have to be resilient, that I can throw away that strong Black woman trope and I can just exist as myself. And I experience Black girl magic when I see Black girls creating, cultivating, discovering, exploring their sexuality and their gender expression, vibing, and making beautiful things like today appear out of nowhere.
And you know, I get a little bit of that Black girl joy, and I see a lot of that Black girl magic when I see you on TikTok going viral with your advocacy. Do you mind sharing your TikTok for the folks?
So my TikTok is Marnina the Queen, and you can find me on there doing work talking about existing as a Black woman that's living with HIV.
Thank you so much, Marnina. And Masania, what could you add to that for us?
Black joy for me is about learning and discovering and understanding and respecting all that encompasses being Black in its own way, traveling the world and knowing that as a Black African American, there is no one like us in the world. And I think that is so magical how we're celebrated and how we influence every person in the world is in regards to culture and how we show up and how we celebrate just our reflection. We see it everywhere we go. And I think it's so wonderful and such a blessing and an honor to be Black.
Thank you for that. Now, you were one of the first people that, you know, really taught me the importance of flowers. You know, I made myself believe that I didn't like flowers because I didn't get any. And so you were one of the first people. I remember when I told you that, and you gave me flowers at Positive Living Conference, and you said, here, and it was a special moment for me to receive these flowers, and for you to say that was something that was important to you. And I just want to ask, why are flowers important to you and a central part of your advocacy?
Flowers are important to me, one, because I love them. I think they're so beautiful. And when I see them, it's like, wow, nothing can create this. It becomes. And I love watching a flower bloom. And I also enjoy seeing it when it dies, because sometimes it comes back. And when it does come back, if you're the one nurturing it, it comes back just because you put the work in for it. And that is your gift. So what I've noticed is that when people pass away, they bring a lot of flowers to funerals. And I looked up how much it costs to purchase those flowers. And I'm like, do you know how many times that person had never seen any of those flowers while they were living? And so I just decided, like, because I too wasn't receiving flowers from an admirer, I decided to start planting my own garden. And that way I can watch my flowers bloom for myself, for my own work, for the love I have for myself. And that would be a reflection of me. And then I noticed that if I'm experiencing this, others are too. So in what small way could I show people an appreciation for the life and the time and the love that they may have shared with me that I cherish? And, you know, you can buy flowers as little as $1, $2, and $4. But what that means for someone can just invigorate them in their livelihood. So I believe in giving flowers simply because I want you to have them while you're living, because I ain't bringing them when you die.
Thank you. And how can we give our sisters flowers in today's state without always having that physical connection?
Simply by just making sure that we honor the women that are living while they're living. Those individuals who have already passed on, that we uplift and raise their names. We make sure that the work that's currently being done, that's becoming historical and will be part of our history, make sure that it's published, make sure that it's researched, make sure that it's taught, and make sure that it's orated. And then that's how we give flowers today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lasanya. And I'm just happy you were here to share that with someone who maybe needed to hear it. Marnina, thank you again for joining us. As the youngest person on the PWN Board of Directors in this panel, how do you navigate within movement spaces and still love, learn, advocate, and find ways to experience joy and self-love?
Oh, that's a really, really deep question. So as you know, Aisha, it is very few Gen Z or millennial young Black women living with HIV in a lot of these HIV movement spaces. And as a wise woman named Benita Ray once told me, if you want to see something, you got to create it yourself. So I jumped headfirst into this work to be the voice of so many other young Black women who couldn't do it due to HIV stigma, HIV criminalization, and just their own internal stuff. And so I listened to the voices of Black movement mothers like Wahida Shabazz that said, don't just sit up in this meeting and eat some chicken. Make sure you are part of decision making in every room that you enter. And so I experienced joy and self-love by knowing that I have to give myself grace. Because when I first started off in this work, I really had a lot of imposter syndrome. I mean, just look at these amazing women that are on these panels that we're celebrating today. And so a lot of times I'm in spaces with them. And so I had to remind myself that I am enough. And any other Black woman that's listening to my voice and is hearing this, know that you are enough. And while I have been so blessed and so humbled to be in so many spaces as a young person, I do make time to throw that respectability politic hat out the window. And I experience joy and self-love because I know that I can't pour from an empty cup. So sometimes you can find me at the conference after everything is done, get me a cocktail. I'm going out to the club and I'm still going to be on time to present the next day because it's not what you do, it's how you do it.
And that was a word because you know we are. You know we are. And that is so true. Thank you so much, Marnina, for that beautiful message. Now, Bree, you know you are a trailblazer.
Hey, girl.
Member of the PWN Board of Directors, founder of the Trans Sister of Color Project Detroit, and currently the director of the Black Trans Fund, the first national fund in the country dedicated to uplifting and resourcing Black trans social justice leaders. What are some of your practices that allow you to thrive and stay grounded and centered?
Ooh, focusing on joy and liberation is first. You know, without joy, folks can't be free. And that kind of guides all the things that I do. And I think it's important to name too that like a lot of how I show up in the world and in movement and even in philanthropy is inspired by a whole entire community of Black trans, GNC, gender expansive folks. Octavia Lewis is on this call and I've been thinking about her a lot lately. Years ago, we went to a protest that went really left. We walked away feeling just very defeated, very disrespected. And the DJ played Mary J. Blige, You Remind Me. And I remember me, Octavia, and 2 other Black trans women were just dancing in the middle of the field after all of this, like, we experienced all this trauma. And when I think about all of the moments where I've actually been able to achieve joy in my life, it's always been in the presence or on behalf of Black trans folks. Last year, I had a really hard, was a really hard year for me. And I saw Mama Didi live and in person. And she gave me a hug and she told me she was proud of me. And I just cried. And I cried on her shoulder for like an hour, just like nasty, snot, ugly, all the things. Not because
just got bombed.
we did.
Kick them out.
But guess what? We still here and we got joy. You ain't
Keep
gonna play that
going.
on our time.
Keep going.
Okay.
That's right.
Back to Miss Didi. Ooh, that never happened to me before. Okay.
Right, Bree. Exactly. Me either. But
I was
keep
about to
going
pull
with
off
the
my
message.
earrings because
That's
you
what
know how
happens
Black
when
women
you-
get down, okay?
Okay.
Facebook Live, you saw that. Okay. But no, I think and you know, I cried not because I was sad, but because I realized that all of the work that Mama Didi had put into this movement, all of the work that I and other Black trans leaders have put into this movement. And like now I finally feel like that we're actually at a space where people see us, we are investing in joy and actually like building power in a way that just, you know, Mama Didi prayed for and had been visioning for. And those moments are the reason why I came into philanthropy. Those moments were the reason I was very clear that if you're not talking to me about joy and liberation and you ain't giving me money so Black trans folks can experience joy, I don't need it. I don't want to talk about it. It's not my place, right? And so really just wanting to take this opportunity to uplift all of the Black trans folks in my life who have just been amazing. And a high majority of those are like Black trans women, Black trans femmes, and just really honored to be in this space with other Black women to celebrate not only my womanhood, but my transness as well.
Thank you so much for that beautiful message, Bree. And, you know, I was going to take these last minutes to do something else, but I want to say, you know, things like that is what validates us and let us know that we're doing something right. Even when we're in spaces that, you know, in our own space that we created for ourselves, they show up and think that they can steal the show, knowing that we are the show, we run the show. I want every Black woman to know that you are worthy, you are loved, and you set trends. You are a trendsetter. You are the culture. You are beautiful, and everything about us is intimidating. And that is why we are always the least to be appreciated. We are always overlooked. And I want you to know that PWN stands with you each. I stand with you all. And we are so happy to have you each here with us today to give us and come together and show love to these movement mothers who deserve every piece of appreciation we are giving them, as well as to each panelist that is here today. We honor you, we thank you for your presence, and we love you. Back to Martha.
Oh, wow. Guys, get off mute and just give it up for that. I mean,
did we do this last year? Last year we switched to a co-director model team, and I'm sitting over here so full that I am just, it just blows my mind that this would have happened, that you all would have showed up and trusted us to show up and honor you in a way that you could be appreciated. Somebody said, if we ain't doing it, it didn't happen. Y'all made this shit happen today. Ain't no code switching, but a zip code. Ain't no, you know, you talked about our stories drive our solutions. I heard so many gems today that are what I see you all do every day. you know, and honoring each other and yourselves. Celebrating Honor Black Women is about you. It's about us. It's about me. It's about telling the world who we are, because they seem to forget or they don't know it. We're about respecting Black women, honoring Black women, listen to Black women, pay Black women, respect Black women. You know, I want folks to leave here today to know without joy, people can't be free. Thank you, Bree. I heard so many that you all help us make March 12th a day that everybody stops what they're doing and say, it's the day we celebrate and honor Black women. And if Black women are stopping to celebrate, ain't shit else happening, y'all, right? This is our day. And I want to thank y'all for being here. We have to do it for ourselves. I wrote down a bunch of little sayings y'all said. Without joy, people can't be free. We want something to happen. We have to do it for ourselves. Resilience and resistance look a little similar. Thank you, Tony Michelle. You are worthy. You are loved. We can't wait for others to celebrate us. We have to celebrate ourselves. And I'm going to stop for a moment. Nana, what were you feeling? Because I'm just full.
Ooh, I am so full. I am so moved. I am so inspired. Thank you all so much. I learned a tremendous amount from every single one of our powerful panelists, our speakers, our staff, folks in the chat. This is why we do what we do. And I really want to give it up to Martha Cameron, our amazing MC.
Yes!
Thank you, Martha, for holding this all together so beautifully. Thank you so much to DJ Adair.
Yes.
Thank you so much to Crystal and Sally and Aisha for your powerful, beautiful facilitation of these incredible panels featuring such stellar leaders. Thank you to Vanita for everything you are and everything that you do and that you bring to our movement and to our community. And I want to thank every single Black woman in our field, past, present, and future, for everything that you do every day. And for being the joy, for being the resistance, for being the resilience, for being the power and the engine and the force that drives and upholds and takes care of our communities. And that has made, you know, living with HIV even possible for all of us. And the role that you all have played in building community. As a non-Black woman of color, I also really want to call in and challenge non-Black folks in our field to think about what we can and must do differently to uphold and center Black women's leadership. So if you're somebody who has access to resources, who holds any kind of positional power within an institution, if you run a support group, if you, if you are working in direct services, tell us what you will do for Black women in your organizations, in your institutions. Will you make sure they have safety? Will you make sure they are equitably represented? Will you make sure that Black women have decision-making power? Will you make sure that we are listening to Black women, clients, constituents, staff? Will you promote them to positions of true power? Will you pay them equitably? What can you do to do something special and meaningful to your Black women clients, your staff, your constituents on Celebrate and Honor Black Women Day, but also every day, 365 days a year. And so I want to really encourage folks to take action also in terms of your own commitments and your own organizations. I'm going to drop a link in here with a pledge we have for organizational action folks can take, because when Black women win, we all win.
And I want to add one thing. So Nana's dropping that link in. When we ask organizations to sign on, we did more than put your name. We asking, give Black women a day off. Pay them. What's the commitment for putting us in leadership? It wasn't just your name, which we appreciate you signing on, but we want action behind it. And so that sign on, that can happen any day, every day, all day. Partner with a Black-led organization, fund a Black-led organization, organization led by Black women. We need do in-kind services. You don't have money, let's go volunteer. And what I want to end with, and piggybacking or veggybacking on what Nana just said about our non-Black folks, let me say this. what you saw today and what you don't see is CHBW couldn't have been possible without the rest of our staff. You saw Black staff who did a lot of work, but it couldn't have been possible. We are a team here. We have Barb Cardell in the background. We have Sophia Cass. We have Elena Ferguson, who is a new Black staff. We have, who am I forgetting? Victoria, and Victoria, don't kill me because I'm not saying your name right. Who am I forgetting?
Kelly.
Kelly! Y'all know I need to be spanked for forgetting Kelly, who's been here longer than me. But we couldn't have done this. They held the reins. They did the work. They said, fine, Black staff, this is your day, but what can we do to help? They did runs of shows. There is a place for everybody, and everybody has a lane. When it ain't your day, help get on the sidelines and pitch in. And I want to thank from the bottom of my heart our non-Black staff, and Nana included, who said, this is important. Tell us what you need us to do. And that's the kind of teamwork any organization can do. And so I just want to really, and I feel bad about Kelly because Kelly does so much, but our whole organization put the time, effort, because this was important. Remember, we know what's important by where you put your time and your money. If you're saying anything less, I'm probably not hearing you because you're giving me an excuse, right? So challenge other organizations. Challenge CDC, challenge others. We don't need them to have a day, but let's challenge them to do better for us because we deserve it. And I just want to thank you all for coming, trusting, and our movement mothers. When me and Nana started talking about this, y'all, we started with 10, then we ended up with 20, and we could have went to 30. There were so many people we wanted to celebrate. We welcome you all holding your own CHBW event, and let us support yours. Nana, I'm gonna turn it over to you for the last words because I'm done. DJ, thank you.
I think you said it all, V. I think you, our panelists, all of our speakers have already dropped the mic. I just want to say again, when Black women win, we all win. Thank you all so much. Let's do this again today, every day.
And our staff are off on the 18th. All Black staff are off from PWN on the 18th. So if you need one of us, don't call us on the 18th.